second half of the NBA season is officially underway after the Boston Celtics played the Chicago Bulls last night. But look, the Boston Celtics are still the team to beat. Rightfully so. So that's what we're going to talk about here on Celtics Today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Allie Barefoot. The Boston Celtics are the number one team in the Eastern Conference. But look, there's a lot of good teams in the Eastern Conference, more than I want to admit. But who are the real threats? Who are the teams the Boston Celtics should be watching for? And as we go through the next 29 games, or 28 games, I should say, until the end of the regular season, there's 5 teams I think could be competition for the Boston Celtics moving forward. But look, I'm not extremely worried right now. Why? Because the Boston Celtics are crushing it with the NBA Eastern Conference standings. These are actually the records that were happening before the second half of the season did start. The Celtics are 4.5 games above everybody else. The Cavaliers are making their way back up. I assume the Bucks and the 76ers will continue to fall while the Knicks will continue to rise. And I think we've got a long way to go before we have to worry about the Hawks, the Bulls, or hopefully the Magic. So let's go ahead and break down the top 5 Eastern Conference threats. We're going to go backwards here. I do want to start with the Philadelphia 76ers. We already acquired Jaden Springer from the 76ers, which I think is personally a steal for the Boston Celtics. But the only reason why I had the 76ers at number 5 right now is one name, Joel Embiid, who is currently on the injury report. However, Ramona Shelburne of ESPN did report an injury update saying there is an optimism in Philadelphia that Joel Embiid can return at some point during the regular season, at least close enough to the playoffs to get his rhythm heading into the playoffs, but the Sixers don't want to put any time frame on it until he starts ramping up. This is make or break for the Boston Celtics in the playoffs if Joel Embiid is back. However, the Boston Celtics look like the better team right now, and we all know the 76ers do have an Achilles heel with the second round of playoffs. But it doesn't mean to dismiss the rest of the roster. Tyrese Maxey is having a season for himself. Plus, Buddy Hield is now a part of the 76ers, and he gave the Celtics a pretty hard time when he was on the Pacers. Tobias Harris, you can't ever rule him out, but I do think healthy Joel Embiid will always be a player to watch for the Boston Celtics. But I have 4 more Eastern Conference threats that I really want to get into. The number 1 seed is going to have you guys shook, and I know it too. Stick around for that one. But I do want to give a huge shout out to the sponsor of Celtics Today, Prize Picks, the number 1 daily fantasy sports app that I'm playing, and I need you guys to play this just so you can have some pure happiness in your life, because it's just so much fun, and it's just so exciting to play. I even got my dad to play Prize Picks, all right? And this is totally not his jam, and he's absolutely in love with it. You want to know why? Because there's so many picks to make. I had the Trae Young and Damian Lillard to start their second half of the season, which of course is going to be tonight for the Hawks and the Bucks. I have Trae Young having more than 9.5 30-plus points games in the second half of the season. I also have Damian Lillard to have more than 6.5 30-plus point games. I like these Prize Picks because it gives me something to check continuously throughout the rest of the NBA season. So if you guys want to make your picks, all you have to do is go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use promo code CLNS for a first-time deposit match and watch yourself win some real money in real time. I got number 4 coming in here, the Miami Heat. Take this one with a little bit of grain of salt because as of right now, the first game of the second half of the NBA season, they are the number 7 seed in the Eastern Conference. But here's the thing with the Miami Heat. It's a rivalry. Rivalries always put a little bit more oomph to the aspect of the game. And you guys remember what happened on January 25th when these two teams played together. You got Duncan Robinson and Jaylen Brown going head-to-head, and they want to see who's the bigger man. Well, they're not going to forget that the next time they play. I can almost guarantee you that. Just like how the Boston Celtics have not forgotten the Game 7 Eastern Conference Finals last year. And there's a number of players the Miami Heat have that can be lethal to the Boston Celtics. Of course, you got Jimmy Butler, a.k.a. known as Jimmy Buckets when it comes playoff times, because he's on Dame time, if you will. Terry Rozier, he is still kind of finding his footing, I think, in Miami, but once he's fully embraced into that full rotation, Rozier is going to be a handful. Bam Adebayo, it's speaks enough for itself. He's always lethal when it comes to playing the Boston Celtics. I love him going up against Kristaps Porzingis, but this could also be something to watch if they do happen to make the playoffs. Duncan Robinson, he did have some beef with Jaylen Brown, which is going to cause a little bit of a stir up the next time they do play. But Duncan Robinson can also handle his own around the three-point line, and he's also a sneaky cutter to the basket time and time again, which the Boston Celtics do have to watch out for. So I need you guys to be honest with me here. I know they're the 7th seed, and I know Nick Roloff is probably around the corner listening as he is the host of the Heat Report, but are you worried about facing the Miami Heat possibly in the playoffs this year? Because let me tell you, if the Celtics do beat them in the playoffs, it's just going to feel that much sweeter. Comment why or why not while I break down number 3 here, the Milwaukee Bucks. If you asked me in the offseason who the biggest threat in the Eastern Conference is, it is 110% the Milwaukee Bucks. And now before we start the second half of the season, they're at number 3. Why? Because Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo are overrated together. And I'm putting it out here first. I might get a lot of hate in the comments. I'm not sure. But I want you guys to put yourself back in September when Damian Lillard got traded. This was the most overhyped trade I have ever seen in my entire life. They're both phenomenal players, future Hall of Famers. I am not disrespecting who these two players are individually, but together, I'll personally take the Jays duos over Giannis and the Dame duo. Plus, the Bucks have had a lot of internal problems this season. According to Giannis, they're on their 4th coach in the past 6 months. That is, if you do include the interim coach that came in between Adrian Griffin and Doc Rivers. So the Bucks are trying to figure out their front office, they're trying to figure out their coaching staff, and they're also just trying to figure out the new trades they got, like Pat Bev and such. It's just too much flowing. Where the Boston Celtics, they look solid. But it does not diminish the stars they have on their team. Giannis, of course, you can never rule out Giannis, although Al Horford seems to be Giannis's kryptonite. Chris Middleton, who's been known to be a Celtic killer for some reason, Chris Middleton has his best games, but we do have Drew Holiday still. And then Damian Lillard, he just won, NBA All-Star MVP and three-point contest. Damian's still great. He is a great player. Together, a little overhyped, but that's just me. Coming in at number 2, the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have numerous weapons on their offense, and you cannot deny that. Thankfully, the Celtics have only played them twice, and it was a back-to-back game on the 12th and the 14th, I believe, and they crushed them. And that was great. However, they do have one more game on March 5th, which I will be excited to see what is going to happen on that game because the Cleveland Cavaliers have numerous weapons, like I said. And this win, I do remember, it must have been one of these games, we were down the entire game until the 4th quarter. I can't remember which one it was, the first one, and it's you can't do that with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Why? Because they have 6 players on their roster who are averaging double-digit points. The Celtics only have 5, and I will be honest, I do think that having 6, maybe one extra player, may not push the needle as much, but they have so many resources that they really do fit seamlessly with each other. Donovan Mitchell, some would say he's a top 30 player, some would say he's a top 10. Donovan Mitchell is a phenomenal point guard. You got Jared Allen, who I think is one of the better centers in the league, and then Darius Garland, who was giving the Celtics the works the last time they played them. But these are just 3 players to watch. They, of course, still have Mobley. They have a lot of other players on their roster that could be very tough to beat come playoff time. How worried are you, in all honesty, 1 through 10, about the Cleveland Cavaliers? When I made this video before the season started, I don't even think I had the Cleveland Cavaliers as the team to watch. And now they're 2nd in the Eastern Conference. I'm going to give it a 7. I'm giving it a 7. That's just me. Go on ahead and comment down below. Coming in number 1, the New York Knicks. Holy cow, have they completely made a name for themselves. Are they number 4 in the Eastern Conference right now? Yes. Could they possibly be maybe number 2 by the end of the regular season? Absolutely. And the Boston Celtics have beaten the Knicks twice this season. 3 times this season. But there's one more game to be played, and they have not seen this Knicks team yet, with OG Anunoby on it as well. They also have Bojan Bogdanovic on their team as well. Dante DiVincenzo is a completely different player from the first game to now. We will be live for that game as well on Saturday night. The Anunoby trade did wonders for New York Knicks. They are a completely different ball team. I do think that is in part of OG Anunoby. I think that's also Jalen Brunson having the season of his life. I think Dante DiVincenzo stepping up. I think Julius Randle is still a player to watch out for. But here's what really freaks me out about the Knicks. And I'm going to be fully honest. This is the full strength, no injury roster. This is an elite roster for an Eastern Conference team. And depending on whether Mitchell Robinson can make a comeback or not, you got Brunson, Bogdanovich, who's a 20-plus point game scorer, OG Anunoby, Julius Randle, Alec Burks, not worried about him, Precious, maybe not, Isaiah Hartenstein, could be a player that can make some noise. Josh Hart can also be a player that if you leave him out too long can drain some threes. I'm a little bit worried. That's why I have multiple players to watch out for. Jalen Brunson, who's going to be phenomenal against higher competition. Julius Randle, who is also, he just does wonders in the paint against Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis. OG Anunoby, who I have yet to personally watch on the New York Knicks go up against somebody like the Boston Celtics. And I talked to Marshy, and he said, look, Dante DiVincenzo is the real deal. But it's also Marshall Green, and we know he's biased when it comes to the New York Knicks. So take that one with a grain of salt. Depends on how much you like Marshall Green. This is my top 5 threats in the Eastern Conference, but I'm just a mere girl. I am a wee old lassie. You don't have to listen to me if you don't want to. I need you guys to comment right now. Which NBA Eastern Conference team is the biggest threat to the Boston Celtics? Because look, the target on the Boston Celtics back is getting bigger and bigger every single game, and they're coming in the Eastern Conference. Let me know who you're worried about. And while you guys are at it, hit that subscribe button. We will be live tomorrow for the New York Knicks Boston Celtics game. Going to bars is overrated. Hanging out with your friends on Saturday night can be fun sometimes, but I'm telling you, watching Celtics today beat New York Knicks is 10 times better. Come join us tomorrow night. Hit that sub button for me.